Hello and welcome to my channel Beat Slavery with Rasha. My name is Rasha Hafar and today I will be talking to you about what forced marriage and debt bondage look like as parts of being different types of slavery-like practices. So what is forced marriage? Forced marriage is a marriage where someone is forced into being married without freely giving their consent. In many cases, women and girls are being forced into marriage for the purpose of serving a man and his family, and this is what is defined as servile marriage when they are forced into or being sold or transferred or inherited into that marriage for the purpose of providing services for that man. So a first marriage qualifies as a form of human trafficking in two cases when women are sent away from their hometowns, forced into the marriage, and repeatedly compelled to engage in sexual conduct with that man or the new husband. And then her experience is that of sex trafficking. And if the bride is treated as a domestic servant by her new husband or his family, where we find that happening in so many different cases around the world, where the girls are being sold just so that they could work as domestic servants for the families. So that is a form of labor trafficking. In 2016, an estimation of 15.4 million people were living in a forced marriage. Of this total, 6.5 million cases had occurred in the previous 5 years, which is between 2012 and 2016, and the remainder had taken place prior to this period, but had continued into it while it happened after that. So men and boys can also be victims of forced marriage. However, most of the victims, 88% of them, are women and girls, with more than a third, which is 37% of them, are children or minors under the age of 18. Data is not really accurate, and there's a huge lack of available data, and it's limited in certain areas like the Arab states. However, with the available data that we know about, Africa comes first in number of forced marriage, where 5 out of 1,000 people are being forced into marriage, then followed by Asia, then the Pacific. This issue of the lack of data is really hindering the cause of fighting human trafficking because we still don't know a lot. There's a lot of gaps in knowing about the crime. So now moving to debt bondage. What is debt bondage? Debt bondage is when someone is being forced to work to repay a debt and is not being able to leave, or being forced to work and not being able to leave because of that debt. More than half of the women and men who are forced into labor are actually in debt bondage. So 16 million people are in forced labor. 8 million out of them were in debt bondage at a certain point in 2016. So this proportion rises above 70% for adults who were forced to work in agriculture, domestic work, or manufacturing. And this is where we see a lot of forced labor happening. There are also traditional forms of debt bondage. So there are traditional forms and there are the new forms. I will talk about the traditional forms. So debt bondage in its traditional form is inherited from one generation to the other, or from one family member to the other. So an example I would give is a father who bought a tractor. He didn't have the money for it, so he got the money from his neighbor. He borrowed some money, and then he found himself unable to pay. So what he did is that he told the neighbor, I will give you my son. He's 16, he's strong, and he's capable of working in your fields, in your lands, so you can use him as long as you want in order for me to pay back my debt. So that son is trafficked. He finds himself in a debt bondage. He would work for years without even knowing for how longer, and without knowing how to get out of it, because he is just stuck in that situation. Another case is of a Tunisian man who was forced into selling drugs to pay his brother's debt that was put in jail in Italy. So it moves from one brother to the other, because people will be the people who the brother owed the money to are going to be threatening the brother. And then the new forms come with the new forms of recruitment, which is more prevalent with recruiting agencies and recruiters who put debts on the workers they recruit to work abroad. And this applies to immigrants traveling for work. So by that, I come to the end of this video. Please use the comment section below for your Q&A and stay tuned for more videos to come.